ladies and gentlemen, to this fabulous building and to the... Can you just be quiet for a minute, please?
It's all about him.
It's always all about him. And to the Philosopher by the Art of Boo. I'm Julie Tate, I'm director of the Lakes International Comic Art Festival, which is in the north of England, about as far away from London as you can get. And we celebrate the wonderful world of comics in all its various guises each year in October in the Lake District. And we also, I'm proud to say, have 28 country partnerships today, adding Lebanon to our 27. Yay! So we're very happy about that. Why am I here? Don't worry, I'm not having an existential crisis. I have got two reasons to give to you. The first one is we're very fortunate to have been invited to showcase this brilliant project by the British Council, and I'd like, first of all, with your round of applause, to accompany it, to thank Mark and Sasha, Skinder, everyone here, Nora from the British Council, for making this possible. Round of applause. And the second reason is, despite Brexit, we are involved in an EU-funded project. Woo! And we work in partnership. It's called Comic Art Europe, with the Barcelona Comic School, the Lyon BD Festival in France, and the Belgian Comic Strip Centre in Brussels. Woo! It'll make sense later. And one of the elements of the project is a commissioning programme where we make an open call for artists in residence to come and spend time with one of the partners and create some exciting, interesting new work. And this year, we had more than 200 applications from across Europe and further afield, and that was whittled down to 5. And then each of the partners was able to ask for one, but they had to write down their preferences first, second, and third. So I wrote number 1, Bernard Hage, number 2, Bernard Hage, and number 3, Bernard Hage. And guess what? We got Bernard Hage. And as you'll see in the background of Philosopher, well, you won't know, but this is Kendal. This is where the festival is based. And we had an absolutely fantastic time hosting Bernard over those few weeks. The theme for the open calls is living together. And for those of you who know Bernard, typically he took the theme well off-piste. And you'll find out more about that in a few seconds. So I'm actually going to hand over now to a man who's had the joy of interviewing Bernard before. He's a journalist, a masochist, and your host for this evening. Sorry. Jorn de Cock. Round of applause again, please. And of course, the kind of star of the evening, our philosopher for the evening, Bernard Hage. Thank you.
I really believe that memory is who we are. The protagonist also says this, and I coincidentally agree with him.
Did he have a say in this?
We did brainstorm. We did have a brainstorming session. And I believe that I am what I know, and my knowledge depends on what amount of information I can store. It depends on my memory. And whenever you start losing your memory, you start losing your identity. This is how I see myself. And the thing is that memory manifests itself in objects. So sometimes it can be a picture of someone in your wallet. It could be a scarf with a certain perfume. It could be a building where you have had some experiences. And these objects help boost this memory to reassure you that it's not just in your head, it actually happened, it's there. And for me, when I talk about memory, it's really condensed in one narrow street, which is Jemaiz al-Malmkhaïl. I went to school in Sacré-Cœur, which is, it's located in the beginning of Jemaiz Street. And this is where I spent most of my years in school, and then this is where I used to escape from class to have the best manouche in Beirut. The place was called Damas, it's no longer there now. In this street I've had my first coffee, my first kiss, my first date, my first breakup, my first work job, and I launched my personal career as an artist also in the street. So it's really full of memories, and it's an object that kind of validates my identity, this street, these buildings. And when the explosion happened and I went back again to Beirut after that, I was really devastated to see the whole street gone. And I was kind of overwhelmed with a feeling of numbness. You cannot relate anymore to anything, and it's like all your memories have been damaged or shattered in a way, and I couldn't relate anymore to my surrounding, and I felt just as a stranger or as a tourist in the city, which is what pushed me to take the decision to leave.
Being in Berlin, traveling around, so that also creates other ideas. So how are you going to create a balance between those two? What if you accidentally publish a cartoon in Le Lion le Jour that no Lebanese person understands, and something in the Lake District that is about Michel Aoun and Nabil Berri?
Yeah, that would be catastrophic. I mean, the thing is that I'm fully aware that this is a transition phase for me. I'm moving from a place where I really know it. I really know its daily problems. I really know. I know it on a deep level, and I just moved into a new country where I just know about from what I've read. And this requires a bit of patience before you start being active again in your work and publishing as intensely as you were publishing in Lebanon. And this is where you have to separate in a bit the content, because arriving in Germany is like walking into a room where there are already 10 people having a conversation. You cannot just walk into this room and say, I want to talk about Lebanon. And you can't also walk into this room and have an input to what they're saying. You just need to sit down and listen at the discourse, at the conversation, and then form your own opinion. And once you're ready to share this opinion, you raise your hand in this room. And this is the phase where I'm currently at, which is why when it comes to documenting things about Germany, I'm still documenting them from, I'm nearly scratching the surface of the German culture or the German community, while also not diving too deep into the Lebanese problem, because it's also, it just keeps getting repetitive, and I've reached the point as a cartoonist where I just think it's not funny anymore. How many jokes can you make about someone not capable of forming a government, about someone falling asleep in the middle of their speech? So, and especially reality here has become more absurd than fiction. So they literally put me out of job. You know, it wasn't just my choice. But when you have a Minister of Labor telling the Lebanese great news that there are no job opportunities in Qatar, this is more absurd than actual. I can't beat that with the cartoon, you know. When a prime minister presents their CV to a foreign country, you can't beat that. And this is what I'm saying. It's really absurd. Like a judge summons a couple of politicians for questioning in regards of one of the most horrific crimes that happened in modern Lebanese history, and eventually these politicians sue the judge. You can't beat that as a cartoonist. It's already a joke. It's already stranger than fiction. So it's just, they really put me out of work also. So I can't just keep making people laugh because reality is suddenly just funnier.
What happens then when you get a residency, an art residency in the Lake District, in the company of sheep, I guess maybe?
Lots of stray cows.
Stray cows?
Yeah, like really.
Cows that got lost.
They belong to no one. They're just there. I would just like go on hikes and take walks, and they're just there. And the way they look at you, it's very. They're up to something, Julie. You should be careful. They're up to something. I've watched films.
I think you're just a city boy and you have no idea what the cows are actually doing all day.
The ones with long necks.
No, so you're suddenly there in the peace and quiet of a very beautiful region, and your only job that they're asking you to do is be creative.
Yeah.
So how does that work? You wake up in the morning and you think, where's my coffee? Same difference.
Yeah, I mean, you get inspired by this new environment, and that's the positive thing about just keep traveling around and getting to know new cultures, new communities, and you can get the gist of it by just communicating with locals, or just see how nice, how friendly, or how unfriendly they are to you, and this is where inspiration comes from. And yeah, in my case, I had a lot of time to walk around in Kendal, and it's really like a beautiful town, small town, not very touristy, so you can just admire your time there and enjoy your time there without feeling overwhelmed. And I actually documented my own walk in Kendal. I took a video of my walk and some pictures, and this walk in the comic is actually a walk I did there, where, of course, I did not think of all these things in just this one walk.
You were wondering about to whom the cows belong.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking about all these cows at the time, but this is the beauty of editing. This is how I portray myself to the public. I'm a genius.
It's not uncommon among the diaspora to be more romantic about Lebanon than actually people who live here and have to deal with that daily stress. So how are you going to counter that? To become a romanticist, God forbid.
Like I said, you remember the good parts, you remember the good things, and you look at things from, you try to spot the silver linings of the whole crisis. I did publish a book eventually because of the crisis. You know, maybe this would have never happened had the crisis never happened. At the same time, I'm not thankful for the crisis. I'm just saying, and stuff like that. You just learn to spot the positive side of things, and you automatically form some sort of nostalgia when you're away from home. You know, it's like family. You miss them until you come see them on Christmas. And then you remember while you see them once a year. My sister is here, but I'm joking.
She's actually filming, so your whole family is watching.
I'm joking. I love my family.
Forget about Christmas in Lebanon. It's good.
But it's really nice. But one thing that happened one time, I was in a metro station in Berlin. And it was early in the morning, and there was absolutely no one in the station. And I heard Feiruz playing on the speakers in the station. And that really, as cliche as it sounds, it really blew me away, because I just imagined that what if this metro, just like says next stop Ashrafiyya, next stop whatever, it's crazy, and I thought that this is the closest we'll ever get to Lebanon to having public transportation. Is Feiruz playing in Berlin Metro.